Welcome to Latte with a Lawyer, a podcast dedicated to bringing you the stories of some of America's most successful lawyers, figuring out what makes them tick, how they creatively solve problems, and how others aspiring to be them can follow in their footsteps.
Okay, folks, welcome to another episode of Latte with a Lawyer. I'm your host, Jonathan Brickman, and this morning, I guess it's still this morning, we have with us Davina Frederick of Wealthy Women Lawyer. Nice to have you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Great, excellent, good stuff. So to keep with the theme of the show, Latte with a Lawyer, what's your morning beverage of choice to get started?
Well, I'm very fortunate because my husband makes my coffee every morning and it is a decaf coffee from Colombia, non-GMO, organic, no toxicity, low acid coffee. And he puts a tablespoon and a half of butter in it and a couple drops of stevia and whips it up. And I have butter coffee in the morning.
Butter. Wow, I've never heard that one. Why the butter?
Yeah.
What does that do?
Well, if you've ever heard of bulletproof coffee, this is kind of a version of bulletproof coffee where you put butter in your coffee, and it's for those of us who are on trying to become fat adapted in terms of burning fat for energy instead of sugar and carbohydrates. So I'm on an ultra low carbohydrate diet, and so that's what I drink. That's the thing that I fast in the morning, except for the butter coffee, and the fat doesn't inhibit the fasting effect.
Wow, there's all kinds of science. I mean, Dr. Atkins was the one that got that thing going, right?
Yeah, it's a whole different, I think it's a whole different model now than what a lot of people are used to and think. And I think it's also a whole different podcast episode we could
Yeah.
have to get into all of that.
Well, that's all right. We can go any direction.
Yeah.
That's fine. So listen, I know that you are an attorney and you're no longer practicing day to day. So tell us about what you're doing these days and how you got started.
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I had a 15-year career in marketing before I became an attorney. And I
Okay.
became an attorney and started my own law firm in 2007, grew it successfully. And a few years ago, 10 to be exact now, I started this business, which is Wealthy Woman Lawyer. And Wealthy Woman Lawyer is a law firm growth strategy and consulting, coaching and consulting company. We work with women law firm owners to help them grow their successful law firm businesses. I had a lot of people reach out to me. They saw what I did. They wanted to know how I did it. And so I started this business about 10 years ago under a different name and eventually rebranded to focus specifically on women.
Okay. So what is it that you do that people want to learn?
So what we do is we help our women law firm owners, women who own solo or small law firms. We help them scale their law firm businesses so that they begin to generate $1 million a year in revenue and beyond. So a lot of them are starting out and staying small. They may get to multi six figures, but they kind of struggle to get over that elusive $1 million mark. So what we do is we help them develop a strategy and we teach business principles that they wouldn't learn in law school so that they know exactly what levers they need to pull at what time to scale their law firm to $1 million in revenue and beyond.
Okay. And so what are some of those approaches? You say you have a marketing background, right? So is it, I
I
would imagine it's mostly about marketing.
No, it's not mostly about marketing. It's actually it's more about business growth strategy. So marketing is a piece of that. That is where we start is cultivating a wealth mindset. So we work with our clients to sort of overcome a lot of negative stories that they may have in their heads that they're not aware they have around money and wealth. The the way that they feel when somebody says wealth may be negative, and so we help them overcome that. Then we help them learn how to attract better clients so they enjoy the work that they're doing. That's where the marketing piece is really dialing in their messaging and figuring out who their ideal clients are. But then the goal is to get that influx of cash, make them happy working with their clients. And now we can apply that to our scale levers, that leveraging those resources like our time, making sure that we're spending our time on what we should be, the highest and best use of our time, not those doing everything in our business tasks.
Right. Right.
Also, beginning to hire and cultivate, train a team, setting up systems in our business and perhaps automating some of those systems. And then we get into money mastery, which is kind of around the management of money of a business and how to scale. So that's kind of the framework that we teach. There's a lot to that, obviously in detail, but that's the general principle. So we're helping them scale their business by guiding them along the way and helping them figure out what they should be focused on at what particular time.
Okay. In any kind of law practice, are you focused on anything, any specific type of law practice?
Yeah, I mean, we generally speaking, we've worked with probably dozens of different types of law practices. There are some that may not work as well as others. For instance, maybe something like Medicaid law practice or some sort of Social Security type law practice where you're dependent on the government and those things change. But generally speaking, your most basic and popular law practices: estate planning, trust, bankruptcy, family law, personal injury, all different real estate, all different kinds of law practices. We've worked with probably, I would say, 50 different types of law practices at this point. Yeah.
So what's the common thread, like the through line with all these businesses?
The common thread is there's two things. There's one is a knowledge gap. So they're missing, people are always saying this, it's a little cliche, but it is absolutely the truth, is that you're not taught in law school how to run a business. You're not even taught where the courthouse is. And, substantively, you're not taught how to practice and function as a lawyer. But then if you decide to hang out your shingle and start your own law practice, if you haven't had that business experience before and don't know how to own and operate a business so that it becomes profitable and you're setting it up to be sustainable, that you're that's a whole new hat that you're wearing on top of being a good lawyer.
Right.
And so that is a big piece of it, is filling in that knowledge gap. The other thing is just providing that. I think a lot of people operate, when it comes to money, a lot of people operate on automatic. Their subconscious mind sort of takes over how they deal with money. Money is a very touchy subject among people. And I grew up in the generation where it was one of the things not to be discussed at the dinner table. And so I'm kind of on a mission to destigmatize that for women and get them leveling up their wealth consciousness and not letting their emotions dictate how they function in their business and sort of overcome that. So those are the two pieces that I think are really where we really serve our clients, is by helping them to change how they think and become more intentional in how they think and really figure out what stories they tell themselves that no longer serve them around money and what do. And then of course we fill in the gaps in a way that is a very sort of safe environment. You're with people who are like-minded on a similar journey in a community and supporting each other, so they can come and ask questions that otherwise, if they were asking them, they might feel, embarrassed that they didn't know something. And so this is just a way to help them come together as a community and help each other. And we guide them through that process.
Okay. How'd you get here though? Why did you make that transformation, that change in your life?
Well, I started my own practice in 2007, right out of law school. And if you'll remember, and it was my intention when I went to law school to do that. I was about 40 when I graduated law school.
Okay.
And I've been an attorney for going on 16 years.
Yep.
And well, I think I'm in my 16th year. And um, I, I made all the mistakes. I mean, I thought because I had such a strong background in marketing, I'd worked in professional services marketing for 15 years. I kind of naively thought, oh, yeah, I can do this because I know how to get clients. But I didn't know what I didn't know.
Mm.
And so I did it the hard way and figured it out. And there weren't those resources. I felt at the time there weren't those resources available to me to help me figure it out. The ones that were available were cost prohibitive, and they weren't even really in my mind at all. And it wasn't until after I experienced some very serious burnout very quickly, because I grew quickly, I grew successfully. I was representing a lot of lenders in foreclosure matters at the time. And I worked hard to get that business. And then also that allowed me, that was kind of my bread and butter money, and allowed me to focus on becoming a family law attorney and doing trust and estates, real estate, some other things. I was trying to figure out what was
Mm,
going to set me on fire. And so I was learning all of that. So I was trying to be a good lawyer and start my own business. And so I was growing it. I brought in a partner. I hired associate. We hired staff, and we were growing rapidly. But I was really the senior partner, the firm administrator, a litigator, a therapist for my clients and my team, because I didn't really know how to set those boundaries
sure.
in that way. So I was doing all of that, and it very quickly overwhelmed me in terms of my physical self. I was in an office all day. I thought I was creating this sort of lifestyle, but what I really created for myself was a job that I was working. So, you know what they say, instead of working, in the case of lawyers, instead of working 40, 50 hours for somebody else, I'll work 80 for myself. It was kind of that situation,
Yeah,
like
sure.
like a lot of business owners, right? And I didn't want to work in a firm environment, and here I was creating that type of thing for myself. So I took a step back from it, and I also had some things going on in my personal life at the same time that just caused sort of a perfect storm of events. So I sold out to my partner and gave myself a little time to recover my physical health, and then I started a second law firm, and that law firm was focused around trust and estates, and it was virtual, and it was more of a lifestyle firm for me. And I really began to investigate very seriously different business models and the
Mm,
way that I could run a business. And so I got into the coaching world, hiring coaches, and I really enjoyed that. And I really appreciated the transformation in my own life based on the experiences I had with people teaching me and coaching me. And I saw how powerful that was. So for me, I had a lot of people asking me, and I also felt really compelled to share some of the things that I learned. And so I do that through the company, through my podcast, and lots of other ways, really to help provide that place for women law firm owners.
okay. I mean, why'd you even decide to become a lawyer? I mean, why'd you make that decision?
Well, my first career sort of happened. It happened to me rather than me choosing it. I had a degree in journalism, and I sort of picture myself as being this traveling correspondent, traveling the world, going to exotic locations. And it didn't happen that way. I wound up
Mm,
getting married to my first husband and staying sort of landlocked here in the Orlando area. And there was only really one game in town for a newspaper, and they probably weren't going to hire me. Um, because they had, since they were the only one in town, they had a lot of other options. So I got a job in marketing, as a professional writer in marketing for an engineering firm. And then eventually that led me to working for the largest law firm in Central Florida. And then I worked for an agency. So I developed those skills, those marketing skills, but it was not something I chose. It was something that opportunities arose and I followed them. And it kind of happened again with going to law school. I had an opportunity to go to law school, but I did some evaluation. I had an opportunity to evaluate and pick something. And so I considered different professions, and I had some, people that I trusted and who cared about me who said, I think you should do this. I think you should do that. I took all that into consideration, and I considered teaching. I considered being a therapist. I considered interior design, and then
mm,
I considered law. And it had been something that had been in the back of my mind because I have a relative who's an attorney, who's somebody that I really look up to. And so it had always been there. And I love the intellectual pursuit. So I chose law school, and I went to law school with the intention of starting my own business. My second husband, who I was married to by the time I started law school, had been an entrepreneur. And for 25 years, he worked for lawyers to help them with the computer technology in their business. And he did it
mm.
remotely all over the United States. And I really admired the entrepreneurial lifestyle and the ability to create something from nothing. And so that was kind of my driving force. I wanted to create a career with my own business. And so law was kind of what I was drawn to. And I I enjoy certain aspects of being a lawyer, and I enjoyed, I had a lot of cases through the 8 years that I practiced. Um, but I ultimately was found coaching more compelling. It was like an evolution for me more than
Interesting. Yeah,
anything.
yeah,
Right.
interesting. Where are you from? So you're from where in Florida?
Orlando, Florida. We live in the Orlando area, Central
Okay.
Florida. Yeah.
Is that where you're
Yeah.
from? Is that where you grew up?
No, well, no, actually, I am a native Floridian and I'm married to a native Floridian.
Okay.
But I was raised in North Florida. And
Okay.
so Tallahassee, the capital. And but I moved down here when I was, in my 20s, and 1987, I moved down here. So I've been living in this area for a long time.
Okay. When you say down there, it sounds funny to me. I live in South Florida, and I
So
mean,
it's up there for you.
and I
Yeah.
really moved down here because I'm
Uh,
from New England. I'm from outside of Boston, so I'm a typical
oh, wow.
transplant in South
Yeah, that is.
Florida. So you actually have a Southern accent, but most people down here don't. It's basically the Northeast.
Well, it's so funny because I have other people who tell me they can't tell where I'm from. Because if you were around my family, you would really hear some Southern accents.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's very different here in South Florida. So it's an interesting story. I mean, listen, what's interesting is that, eventually if you sort of stay with it, you kind of find your natural spot in life, right?
Well, I think that, I think that we put ourselves in a box. It's the same way with practicing law. When I opened a virtual practice, it was 2011, and I got a lot of pushback from people. I
Sure.
had people say, "Your clients aren't going to like that," and usually they had a hidden agenda. They wanted me to rent space in their office
Right.
building or something. But you know, so it's very exciting for me to coach and mentor younger lawyers who have tools that are available to them that weren't even available to me when I started my firm in
Right.
2007, much less, you know, all the all the years that people have been practicing and growing law firms. A lot of the tools we have now were not available then. So the landscape is really changing and it's very exciting. And kind of my message to people is you can do things your way. It may not always be perfect. It may be messy. Some things may work, some things may not work, but you certainly don't have to follow a long-standing hundreds of year old tradition because
Right.
the world has changed. And there are a lot of people out there who haven't been served historically that you can serve in whatever way that you like, whatever way works for them. So for me, it's just an evolution of myself as a human being. As I've grown, I'm a lifelong learner, and I like to do that through my career, instead of the way other people might approach it.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's your general advice for somebody starting so they don't, have to go through the same, sort of cross these hurdles that you've had to go through now that you're helping people? What's your general advice to young?
Well, my general advice is to look for people who've already been there and done that. I wish I had mentors from the substantive standpoint. So I had mentors who helped me with actual, you know, practice and that kind
Yeah.
of thing. I didn't have mentors for the business aspect. Now there are a lot of resources out there for people. And so don't waste time trying to figure everything out yourself. Also, remember that you are not the best person for every job in your business.
Right.
And often ego gets in our way and we don't think it's ego. We think it's hard work ethic and that we're working hard. We're high achieving people. We're high achieving women. We've worked hard to get here. We don't realize that hard work is not the thing that takes us to the next level in our business. It shifts along the way and you really have to start being the one who does all the doing and start looking for ways to expand your impact by cultivating a team, using automation tools, doing the things that you can do. So it goes beyond you as an individual doing the work to you as a visionary and a leader
Mm,
who galvanizes people around your mission.
got it. So what do you think the biggest levers are for an attorney to create efficiencies? Besides
To
mindset,
get,
I mean, just like other like basic sort of building
well,
blocks.
yeah. Yeah. So I kind of talked about that in my framework.
Yeah.
that so a couple of things, as I said, is first of all, you have to have capital. And I think if you're, when you're starting out, if you haven't, uh, if you're bootstrapping the way I started out, the way a lot of my clients start out, is to expand your mind around, first of all, resources that
Right.
might help you. Because oftentimes people think, well, I have to do this out at my kitchen table, and that's how I have to start, instead of thinking like maybe people in the tech industry who will
Raise
go
your
and,
hand.
they only think of going to get venture capital, capital. So expanding your mind around your resources. But if you are bootstrapping, making sure that you are identifying who your ideal clients are and targeting them specifically, because your life can be hell if you are working with people that you don't want to be serving, and you will
Right.
start to resent it, and it won't go well. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, as you start to make more money and have more resources, you want to apply those resources first to growth and getting market share. And doing that means growing your team. It means using automation and resources to help you do more work, take on a higher volume. It's about expanding your capacity, and the capacity of your law firm, not only your mental and emotional, wealth mindset capacity, but your capacity of your law firm. So it is really, that is the goal, to do that. And you do that through team and systems, essentially. And also not, and you really have to allow yourself to step into that leadership role and learn those skills to be a good leader.
Yeah. Do you have like a whole suite of systems that you help people employ?
So what we do is, in our methodology is to help people understand these different components. We
Mm,
do go into detail on, so in other words, we teach them how to set up a hiring system.
okay.
We teach about training systems. We teach about, so we go into, I've written a book, I've written two books, one's behind me there, um, called The Wealthy Woman Lawyer's Guide. It's Wealthy Woman Lawyer Guide series. And the second book was The Wealthy Woman Lawyer's Guide to Building a Systems-Driven Law Firm Business. And in that, we break down the 7 essential systems that we think every law firm needs
Mm,
to grow. Now, as I do have a tech guide where I have over 100 resources for people, technology and help that they can get to set up that technology and that kind of thing. But technology changes. It's not my goal to teach you, to tell you to go out and get this case management system or get that case management
right.
system. It's my goal to help you understand how, as a leader, to make those decisions. And I do provide some, resources, but that's going to change over time. I've already had to revise that tech guide, I don't know how many times, because I'm adding to or taking away or whatever. It's really about, when you're in law school, you're taught to think like a lawyer. What we're doing is we're helping to teach you to think like a CEO.
Mm,
So it's really separating that business, that your business is not your baby. It is not you. You and your business are not one. It's separating you from the business and saying, what does the business need, separate and apart from me, the individual? And then, so you're learning to think like a steward of that business, like the CEO that's going to guide that business growth into the future.
excellent. Have you read E-Myth? You probably have.
Yeah,
E-
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have. I did not like E-Myth for attorneys. Interestingly enough, I
Oh, I
thought
didn't even
E-Myth,
know there was one for attorneys. I read that
yes,
years
there is one. You can skip it.
ago.
But the original E-Myth Revisited, yeah,
Yes.
it's definitely a good read.
Okay, that's what it sounds like. So how long are the engagements when you have a client? Like, how long does that last? Is that ongoing as a
Well, I serve my clients in a couple different ways. I have private coaching, and that's a year. Um, that's a year of working together with me as their business advisor. That's how I started out. Just after the pandemic, I think it was probably right around the time of the pandemic, I was working on finding another way to serve my audience, people who were not ready for the one-on-one coaching program, but needed some foundational principles and needed to have the support of a community and maybe some group coaching. And so I developed a program called the Wealthy Woman Lawyer League. And the Wealthy Woman Lawyer League is where I teach all of the all of the tools and the frameworks that I have taught to my private clients in a one-on-one environment through the years, I put them in courses with materials and cheat sheets and templates and things like that. So it's a lot of resources. And then I do group coaching with those members of the Wealthy Woman Lawyer Lead. So I lead those coaching calls. And then they're also have the community of other women lawyers that are sort of a mastermind for them. So those are sort of the vehicles
Oh,
for
nice.
teaching and sharing.
Yeah. I mean, I hear this often from the attorneys that I have on here about, and you mentioned it, that, that transition from law school to the real world is sometimes difficult, right? There's not a practical sort of component to it. So is there a way
Right.
so how do you introduce these kind of things you're doing in the real world into law school, maybe the third year, as part of it somehow?
Yeah. I mean, the people in academia are going to have to figure that out without me.
Okay.
I will say that they can figure out how they want to. Do we? I think there are a lot of us who think that the way law is taught needs to have needs to evolve.
Mm,
Just like law firms are evolving, the way law is taught, the way we train our lawyers needs to evolve as well. But that's not the problem for me to solve. I will say that it's like very much like I often tell people, they'll ask me about what about women lawyers working in big law, working in the law firms and moving up the big law ladder? And I always say, well, there are a lot of women, brave women are working and who have worked in big law that are paving the way for other women to have career success in that area. For me, I plant my flag in a different place. So where I plant my flag is working with women who want to start and own their own law firm business, and they want to grow their own big law firm and create the kind of business they want to see in the world, one that supports their lifestyles and maybe the lifestyles of other people who have different desires and needs than what the traditional law firm business model is.
got it. Interesting. So is there a typical, like, what's the size of the law firms that you work with? Are they solo? Are they 5, 10
Yeah.
people?
So most of them start out with me as solos. Some of them may have partners. Um, Occasionally, I'll have some who will have hired attorneys, but maybe it didn't really work out. So they're trying to figure it out. But really, I look at it in terms of, they probably made their first 100K and then they realized that, wow, that's not really as much money as I thought it was going to be because I didn't take that home with me. And so it's anywhere from there to people making 250,000 or 500,000, or I've had some right up to high six figures, but they just can't get over the $1 million mark. So I'm really working very specifically with those beginning years. And some have been attorneys for many years working in firms, but they went out and started their own business.
Mm,
And now they're going, oh, wow, I realize there's a lot I didn't know. So it's not that they're all baby lawyers out of law school. There are many who have worked, 7 years. Some have worked on their own for 7 to 10 years, but they still haven't been able to achieve the level of success that they thought.
yeah.
So it really is about that entrepreneurial lawyer who wants to create a business and not just stay stuck in kind of that freelance lawyer mode where they can't leave their law firm, they can't go on vacation, they can't be out sick, because any of that they're going to worry about what's happening back at the business. The business grinds to a halt unless they have grown it into a business that can sustain itself while they're off taking their vacations to whatever exotic beach they want to go to, or if they're out sick. I've certainly had some clients I've worked with who've had major health crises in growing their law firm that took them out and forced change upon them. So I'm kind of there sounding the alarm for people, saying, it's not only about the luxury of being able to leave and let your law firm generate wealth while you're gone. It's also about creating a business that doesn't require you in case something happens in your life that
Right.
causes you to need to step away from it.
Right. Absolutely. It's not really a business unless it can run on its own, is it? You just create a
That
job for yourself. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that's what most solo lawyers do is we come out of law school and you know, we create something, we think we're going to do the work, we'll hire an assistant, we may hire a paralegal, And for many people, it stops there for many, many, many years. And I see that a lot with women. It's kind of this, they're creating something. Oftentimes they create a law firm business because they have children and they think, I want to practice law, but I need to be there for my children. So I'm going to work for myself. And I think what many of them find is that it's really difficult to sustain that as you become more and more successful.
Yeah.
You start having more and more clients hire you. Now suddenly you find yourself working two full-time jobs, one of being a parent and the other one of working full-time in your business. And then you're the doer. You think that, again, I go back to high achieving women philosophy is we work harder. The harder we work, the more money we make. And I always say, my grandparents, who were farmers, were two of the hardest working people I ever met. And they were born poor and died poor. So, it's not hard work. Hard work is definitely an element, um, can be an element of success. There are a lot of people who are successful, got that way without hard work. Sometimes it's luck of birth. So, you know, but there are other things that create that besides just working yourself to death. And that's not really success.
That is correct. Excellent. Interesting. Well, look, it sounds like you're doing great work in helping people become more productive and successful and freeing themselves. So that's good stuff. Just final words you want to leave with the audience and the best way to connect with you.
Great. Thank you. So the best way to connect is go to wealthywomanlawyer.com if you're interested in learning more about the league, wealthywomanlawyer.com/league, LEAGUE. Obviously, you can follow me if you like Instagram. You can follow me on Instagram at Wealthy Woman Lawyer or find me on Facebook at Wealthy Woman Lawyer. Just Wealthy Woman Lawyers. What you Google it and you'll find me there in a lot of places.
Good.
The thought that I would leave people with is that we're so fortunate because we live in a time where there's so many tools and resources available to us that you really can build the kind of law career that you want to build, whatever that vision is. Um, with and so do that. Don't get locked into somebody else's idea of what you need to do to be successful. I mean, I've had all kinds of judgment through the years, and it's been very interesting to watch how things have played out and to see so many people after the pandemic completely changing their beliefs around how you can practice law. So be open to new experiences and trust yourself.
Excellent. Good stuff. Well, good. I appreciate it. It was fun to hear your story. Interesting stuff. Davina Frederick, Wealthy Woman Lawyer. And this is sponsored by EmotionTrac, which is a legal tech platform. And we actually do help lawyers become more efficient, particularly litigators, with our Insights platform. So thank you, Davina. Really fun to spend time with you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet.